Julie Lanford, the cancer dietitian, and I am here to show you how to make Chef Malena's delicious vegan pumpkin pie. Chef Malena is a chef that I actually contracted to bring in and teach some classes for our survivors at Cancer Services, which is the nonprofit that I work for in North Carolina. And she had all kinds of really fun recipes, including this one, which is a vegan pumpkin pie. So that's what we're going to make today. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, well, does Julie, the cancer dietitian, think I should be a vegan? And what I tell people is that it is up to you as to if or how much meat or dairy products you want to have into your diet. What's most important is that whether you have meat or not, that you have lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of whole grains, nuts and seeds and plant foods. If you want to include meat and dairy with those plant foods, that's your choice. I do sometimes and sometimes I don't, so I say sometimes I'm a vegan and sometimes I'm not. But for those of us who kind of switch between those, we just call it flexitarian. If you're someone who has an ethical reason to be a vegetarian or a vegan, that's a perfectly fine choice. And you probably eat lots of plants, so that's good. So this is just a fun alternative to the traditional pumpkin pie that you can make. Not saying it's better or worse. I will say when I compare it, it might have a little bit less added sugar, this particular recipe does, than the traditional pumpkin pie. But you can always adjust things as your flavors prefer. All right, so I'm going to tell you the recipe up front, and then we'll go ahead and make it. And I wish you could all be here with me, and then you could taste it, but you're going to have to do that part yourself with the hard work of making it. It's not too complicated, but I've written it on the back. I know it's probably really tiny, and I'll also in the comments later put a picture of the recipe for you to have yourself. But what we're going to do, you preheat your oven to 350 degrees. We have 1 can of pumpkin here. It's 14.5 ounces. If you happen to have pumpkin that you made yourself or pumpkin puree, it's going to be about 1 3/4 cup of pureed pumpkin. We have a 1/2 cup of sugar, a 1/2 cup of coconut milk. This I have is the light coconut milk. I have made it both with the whole coconut milk, which is quite a bit of saturated fat, and then I have also made it with the light, which has much less. Both seem to turn out just about the same. So it's kind of up to you whether you want that extra calories in that pie or not. It's just a personal choice. We have 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed that you're going to need to soak in 6 tablespoons of warm water. So I've already had it soaking here because it takes about 15 to 30 minutes for you to soak that. If you're not familiar with making vegan food, flax can actually be a replacement for egg. So in this recipe, where a traditional pumpkin pie you would be using eggs, we are using ground flaxseed. You soak it in water, which helps to give it the bulk and filling it out. It is actually kind of similar if you've ever soaked chia seeds. It comes, makes kind of like a gel. Probably don't want chia seed pumpkin pie is what I was thinking, because the flax is a great, it mixes right in, you don't notice any texture changes, but chia definitely has a texture that you might not want in your pumpkin pie, especially if you have people in your family that aren't too interested in trying out new things. In addition, we'll have 1 teaspoon of vanilla, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of cloves, all ground. So that's what we'll do. We'll mix it together, and then we will basically put it in the oven for 45 or 50 minutes, let it cool, eat, and enjoy. And so that's what we're going to do today. So there's actually a lot of reasons why you would want to eat pumpkin. Pumpkin is itself a vegetable. It has a lot of great healthy carbohydrates. It has fiber in it, which is good for bowel health. It has beta carotene, lots of things that are really good for you, other vitamins and minerals. But if you eat pumpkin plain, it doesn't have quite a lot of flavor. And so we put it in a pie or a souffle if you wanted to do it without the pie crust. That gives it great flavor. You could probably use this recipe with things other than pumpkin. Any of the winter squashes that you can puree would be fine. Even sweet potato might work in this same recipe. So it's kind of a versatile recipe, and also a lot of those orange squashes that we can get this time of year are great for substituting with each other. Okay, so we are going to get started. I will mention that I personally am not a big fan of pie crust, the regular pie crust. I don't have anything against it nutritionally, but personally I just don't like the flavor of it. And so I am actually making my pumpkin pie with one of these graham cracker crusts. Honestly, I love a chocolate graham cracker crust, so one time I'm going to make this pie and put it on chocolate crust, but we have just the regular today. It makes it easy. You can, of course, buy regular pie crust, put it in there. If you're really a great baker, you would make your own. That is beyond my ability level in the kitchen. I'm an expert in nutrition when it comes to being a dietitian, but I am no fancy chef, and I just want to be able to eat delicious food that is nourishing to me and my family and not spend forever in the kitchen. So there's certain shortcuts I'm willing to take and other things that I want to just go ahead and do myself. So the shortcut today is buying the pie crust. All right, so what are we going to do? We are going to start. This is the order I like to do things in. I like to use as few utensils as possible so that cleaning up is easier. So we are going to start with our ½ cup of sugar. Right here, it's just white sugar. You could probably use any other kind of sugar if you want. If you really felt like it was sweet enough, you could try cutting back a little bit if you want. But this ½ cup of sugar for the whole pie really isn't that bad. Then we're going to use our coconut milk. So you can use the same scoop if you do the dry ingredients first. So again, I'm trying to save you some work in the kitchen. All right, so we have our ½ cup there. And then we will do our ground flaxseed. So this has been soaking. So what I do at home, I have a hot water maker on my fridge, and I just tell it to give me warm water, but you can also get it straight out of the tap. So I turn the tap on hot, and then I just got that warm water out. So if you're not familiar with measurements, 6 tablespoons of water is a ¼ cup plus 2 more tablespoons. And so that is, I think, 3 ounces if you have something that measures ounces. But what you need to do is get the ground flaxseed, put it in the water, mix it up, and let it soak. So at least 15 minutes. I think this has probably been about 30 minutes at this point that it's been soaking together. All right, so we're going to put that in. And you can see I use the back of the measuring spoon so that I don't have to, get another spoon dirty. Then we are going to, so we did our sugar, our coconut milk, and our ground flaxseed mix. Then we have a ½ teaspoon of salt. So this is a ½ teaspoon measure. So we'll put our salt in there. We will put a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. So here we have it. Again, I can use the same measuring spoon. I'm not really worried about any kind of contamination. All right, and then we need an 1/8 teaspoon of cloves. So this is also good math practice. If you have kids around and you need them to practice their fractions, you can ask them, well, I have a ½ cup, or a ½ teaspoon, how do I make an 1/8 teaspoon? Go ahead and put those in. And then basically all you have left is your vanilla. So I've done vanilla last, so I can use this same measuring scoop. So we're doing a teaspoon of vanilla. A little sloppy there. And then we have our pumpkin. So I like to just mix it up a little bit before I add the pumpkin, just to get it nice and mixed together. Now, flaxseed, if you're not familiar with flaxseed, it is actually a seed, which means it is a source of protein. Flax also has healthy fats in it, lots of minerals and antioxidants, and lignans is what it's kind of known for. Some of you survivors, if you are a breast cancer survivor, or anybody who has a hormone positive cancer, somebody might have told you that you need to stay away from it, but that is not based on any good evidence. So at this point, us oncology dietitians are happy for you to consume flax. I prefer you consume the whole flax seed ground up rather than oil or some kind of extract, because you don't get all the nutrients that are in the seed if you only have the oil part. So Flaxseed is also a great way to replace butter or other solid fats in baking recipes. So I'm always using flaxseed if I make muffins or pancakes, waffles, sort of sweetbreads, or anything that you would bake. I go ahead and put flaxseed in it. And I buy it ground because I don't want to have a grinder and then grind all the flax. Like, that's just too much work for me. So I do buy it ground and then I keep it in the freezer. Places that you can buy it ground, I've seen it at Costco, I've seen it at my regular grocery store, Walmart, Amazon. I actually had it for a while on a subscribe and save with Amazon, so they would ship me these flax seeds, ground up flax seeds every 2 months or something, and then I would keep them in the freezer. Well, I had quite a storage of them. I still do. So I had to stop that. But it is really easy to get them. And the nice thing about the ground flaxseed is you really can add it to pretty much anything. I'll even put it in oatmeal or smoothies. Sometimes I put it in yogurt. So it's just something different to do. So we mix it all up, and it will be a little bit runny, which I'm not really a pumpkin pie person. I really like this one. I think it's delicious. But growing up, I didn't like pumpkin pie that much, so I'm not as familiar with making the regular pumpkin pie. So I find it a little bit runny, but then once you bake it in the oven, it does turn out firm to eat. So here we have it. We just mixed all those things together. Stirred in here. We've not used that many dishes. And then you pour it right into the crust. So I find it fills the crust pretty full, but it seems to work out fine. The other thing you can do, if you're not a crust person or you don't have crust around, you can make a souffle, which is basically a crustless pie. And you can put that, so like last night I made this again, and I had some extra that I didn't want to put in the pie crust, and so I put it in a separate dish. And it's just a delicious thing. I could see putting it in smoothies, you know, once it's baked or anything like that. So this is what your pie is going to look like before going in the oven. And like any good recipe video, of course, I have the complete version right here. So this one I made last night. As you can see, it looks very much like regular pumpkin pie, traditional pumpkin pie. I'm going to cut a piece out of it, which I can't wait to see how it turned out. And I'm going to taste it for you. I'm sorry that you can't be here to taste it yourself. I promise it's delicious. I've made it several times, and I actually, you know, I have a 1-year-old and an 8-year-old, and my 8-year-old really loves this pie as well, and she's not the most adventurous eater, we'll say. So I'm going to taste it for you, which is absolutely delicious. It has the perfect amount of sweetness. It has great flavor because of all that cinnamon, the cloves. I think it's just perfect. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. I hope that you try it out. If you do have questions, because I can't see the screen right now to answer them, I am happy to go in the comments afterwards. So if you want to type in any questions there, I'll put the recipe in there so that you have it available for you whenever is convenient. But I do thank you for joining me today, and thanks to Patient Power for having me and hosting. And I look forward to sharing some more great nutrition information on Patient Power's page again in the future. Thanks so much.